All right, so I'm going to be starting game 2. G2 has elected to take blue side on this game. So the few drafting things that I want to see them change are, I don't think that they should allow the Urgot versus Aatrox matchup in top side. I think that they should try to ban out one of those on blue side and force RNG to ban the other one out, so that there's the mind game of, oh, we don't want to give up Urgot or Aatrox as a first pick to G2, and then use that pressure of banning out a top laner to try to get one of their priority picks from the first draft, where either Tahm Kench, Akali, or Heimerdinger, see if RNG gives up any of those on red side for their bans. And I also want to see Hjarnan on a better AD carry for actual fighting and skirmishing. Jhin does have some utility, but his frontline killing is not nearly as strong as Varus or a Sivir or something else like that. So I want to seek some kind of utility or scaling or something that G2 can use to actually be able to hold their own outside of lane against the rest of RNG's comp. So I'm going to start going through this again. So I want to see what kind of adaptations they can make in this draft. So I'll start it off again. And we see the Xayah ban again for phase 1 from G2, the Heimerdinger ban. So that's one of the 3 bans that RNG is going to keep the same. G2 is going to be banning the Talia this time on blue side. I guess they felt that the pressure that Talia was able to put around the map was very significant. I think it's still a good ban because she's probably one of the best junglers right now. So it's good to get that out of Karsa's hands to let him not be able to get around the map so quickly. So G2 or RNG does now ban the Alistar on red side. I guess they don't want G2 to have access to that, which is, again, a strong support, but that changes off at least one of the bans that RNG had from blue side, which means G2 is going to get one of their picks, the Aatrox ban, followed by the Urgot ban, and that frees up the Akali to be first picked by G2, and this is a huge flex pick that they can now use, and it's very clear that they're going to be doubling down on their 1-3-1 style that they tried to do last time, but were not as successful. So RNG now counters that potential Akali mid lane with the Lissandra. It's probably going to be an Aftershock Lissandra who is really good at just stalling the backline and keeping fights from happening. They also get the Rakan for Ming to get some more engage on their team, but they also give up the Tahm Kench. So the 2 bans that are left out now for RNG from their blue side banning are both picked up, and they get the Aurelia. So this is a really good first round draft by G2 in order to put their split pushing comp online, and it depends mostly on how they actually play the champions rather than the setup itself. So this is a really good job of G2 now drafting against RNG for this game, and we have their last pick for RNG being Lucian. They still want to be able to keep up that aggressive laning style against Hjarnan. And the Lucian Rakan is super slippery, very strong. They do lose a lot of their beefiness in bot lane, though, again, because of the Rakan pick, for more of the engage quick utility. So now there are no junglers banned. There are no junglers on either side, so it looks like that there was going to be a bit of jungle focus. They're going to ban the Olaf in their first rotation of banning. I think it's okay to continually shrink the jungle pool. There's the Nocturne ban for G2. I think that Jankos' Gragas is probably good. It's probably good enough to be picked, and so that they're not going to lose out too much on losing the jungler. It's a really good engage tool for the 1-3-1, just for trying to find picks. They banned the Jhin on RNG's side, but I actually don't know if they need to do that, because it was pretty clear that Uzi was able to get a significant advantage against the Jhin in the last game. So it's interesting to see what they're planning for that. And now G2 bans another jungler, Lee Sin. So that actually leaves up the Xin Zhao for Karsa to play, since that's the next highest jungle that's left available. So he does end up picking that. So I'm expecting to see a Gragas for G2, seeing as that seems to be what they're most comfortable playing. And then, since there is no Jhin ban, I would assume that it's going to be a Varus for G2, as that's the next best utility team fighting and good champion for just the 1-3-1 comp that they're trying to do. It's pretty safe in lane because of how much you can bully, and then the Tahm Kench adds another layer of safety. So it is the Varus and the Gragas as well. So I really like the full team comp of G2 and that they're really solidly committing to their 1-3-1 style this time. They're able to draft champions like Aurelia and Akali, who they kind of just let go through the draft. And so now RNG has to get a top laner who will play against the Akali or the Aurelia. It's going to be Shen as the last champion for RNG. So just looking at these two comps, what they did differently, I think G2 did pretty much everything that I wanted them to do in order for them to change up what they need to be doing. They were able to secure the Akali and the Tahm Kench through their useful bans of banning out the Aatrox Urgot matchup for both sides to be able to get them to ban it. And they banned the Talia, so even though Karsa does get another early game jungle pressure, the clear for Xin Zhao is not nearly as quick as Talia, so the Gragas won't just fall behind as much as he did in the first game. Perks into Lissandra, that's an okay lane matchup for Aurelia. The Akali versus the Shen should be pretty Akali favored, and the bot lane for G2 should have an advantage because of their relative safety with the Tahm Kench plus Varus outranges the Lucian for trading. So I actually really, really like G2's comp, and now it just depends on how much pressure Wunder and Perks can put on their lane opponents and how much of a lead they can get. Because I still think that Uzi and Ming is just so much of a better bot lane duo than Hjarnan and Wadid. So I think they'll still be able to get that CS lead. It probably won't be as bad this game, just because Varus is a lot safer and easier to farm with than Jhin. And they have the inherent safety of the Kench, so even if the Xin Zhao comes down bot lane early, as long as the Devour cooldown is up, they should be able to get out without burning too many summoners on each other's sides. So I think G2 got exactly what they were looking for. They drafted really well in this game. And there's a lot less of a front line now for RNG, so if they get caught by a Varus ult or by a Gragas barrel or something come mid to late game, G2 could actually look to punish that. So I think that the draft for G2 is significantly better, and I think the front line for RNG is significantly weaker than before, so it's actually going to be a lot easier for G2 to pull off this 1-3-1 comp, because they're not going to be dealing with an Urgot or a Scion in the face of their AD, as opposed to now just a Shen and a Lissandra, who are noticeably weaker than those two champions. So as we'll naturally just see, the Varus is able to stay a lot more even with Uzi, although he did actually have to use his first potion a lot earlier than I would have expected him to in this lane. A nice ward by RNG spots Jankos and his pathing early on. There's a lot of early pressure already from both the solo laners that's going on. Karsa is spending a lot of his time down bot lane, which he should be, to try to get Uzi an advantage over this Varus. But even if there is an advantage in bot lane, I still like the safety that G2 has. They're looking to try to dive, it looks like, at this early level. And Jankos is actually coming down, so they could turn this gank around if they play this correctly with the Tahm Kench Devour. So right now, yep, they're able to consume the Varus out, and Xiaohu actually does complete his teleport. This is like super heavy commitment by RNG to try to get bot lane pressure, but they're also giving up a ton of pressure now in their mid lane matchup because he's used the TP. So Perks actually just has free the ability to push in his lane, and now Xiaohu is down like 10 CS or almost 10 CS on him after this push at like only 4.5 minutes. So that's a pretty significant disadvantage. Hjarnan actually is getting really low. He forces the ignite out from Ming, but he's going to have to back off from here. They're taking a lot of bad trades in this bot lane, which is what's giving Uzi a lot of his laning pressure so far. So Uzi and Ming are really good at punishing this bot lane and taking really good trades with the Lucian. However, they're playing more utility-driven champions, so it's not going to be as bad if they fall behind just because of the Varus ult being really strong, plus Kench. But again, they also shouldn't be falling this far behind on Uzi, just with their team comp specifically. So right now, I think the jungle pressure that Jankos needs to do is just to sack bot lane at this point. And I think that he should be focusing on getting this Akali and the Aurelia ahead, because if you have strong split pushers, it doesn't matter how strong Uzi is in this case. If Wonder and Perks are able to just out-split push their opponents, there's always going to be pressure drawn in the side lanes. And they don't have a Scion or an Urgot with Righteous Glory anymore to be able to hard engage onto the Varus. So it's going to be a lot harder for RNG to actually execute this game, and G2 steals away the Scuttle Crab from Karsa, which is actually pretty good. It keeps him from just getting any more significant advantage on this lane. But what's really intelligent right here actually is what Uzi and Ming do immediately after that. They know that he used his consume on the Scuttle Crab to steal it from Karsa, so they immediately go in on a trade on Hjarnan, knowing that he cannot be saved by Wadid from that, and they get even more jungle pressure. And Xiaohu is down here again. They're really taking a lot of their priority out of mid lane and giving a lot of free farm and pressure to Perks in order to get this tower. And I think they might have actually tunneled a little bit too much on the first tower gold this game, simply because of how much tempo and pressure they're losing on this, on like the rest of their map. So specifically in terms of how quickly Karsa can clear his camps and how much pressure Xiaohu actually has on the mid lane in terms of being able to have it constantly pushed out, because Perks will always be able to roam down after the Lissandra, but he's also going to get a lot more gold. Like, he's already a level ahead, and he's getting pressured out right now because he just doesn't have nearly as much farm as he should. And so Perks is really able to start fighting now that he's level 6. He's going to look for advantages over the Lissandra to see if he can burn her ultimate just in the solo lanes that are going down right now. And Wonder is still pressuring this Shen. He's got about a 10-ish CS lead or so over that. Perks has about a 20 CS lead. Uzi has about a 25-ish CS lead over Hjarnan. So in this game specifically, the solo laners for G2 are actually getting a lot further ahead than their opposition. Uzi is going in, he forces out the heal from Hjarnan, and they're still putting a lot of pressure. So the amount of time that RNG has spent in bot lane is actually rewarding Uzi in his ability to get this first tower blood even faster than he did before the last game. But at the same time, I think that because you don't have a Scion, because you don't have a bigger front line for this, I think it's actually better for G2 that they're spending all this time now. That was a good cast by Jankos, able to disengage the fight. They're able to trade ultimates. They're especially able to get the Shen ultimate out of top lane. But again, G2 loses the first blood tower now in bot lane, and Uzi already has about a 30 CS lead and 8 in like almost in under 9 minutes. And that's pretty insane. That's a pretty big lead that they're able to put onto their Lucian. So theoretically, they're doing the exact same thing that they should have from last game as well. And they're going to attempt to dive onto here. Perks roams up. Looks like they're able to get pressure down. And Perks is actually able to get first blood, almost escaping by flashing over the wall. I think that was a really good roam by Perks to try to get an advantage onto the map. But at the same time, it seems like RNG was ready for that, and they were able to trade the kill back. But again, it's very clear that the pressure and the tempo is favored in RNG only through their bot lane, and that's about it. This is also a bit of a strange dive. Wonder takes 2 tower shots before he actually goes in, and they don't really trade off the tower aggro super well. Jankos has to flash out, and he almost dies for that. And then Wonder isn't really able to follow up either because he had already used his ult from the top lane 2v2 skirmish. So that's probably the best case scenario for G2, considering how much they actually had used ahead of time, and they were still able to go 1-for-1. But now we can see that RNG is trying to pressure with Uzi's like huge lead over Hjarnan right now, and they're going to basically be taking it out of the textbook from what they did last game. Get the bot lane outer tower first, get the gold onto Uzi, and then pressure top lane. But here, because Perkz has such a huge lead over Lissandra, he's able to actually leave his lane and keep hovering over this bot lane and top lane, so that they don't actually have as much pressure for this Rift Herald that they did last game, because Perkz is actually winning his lane and in a much more earlier game focused champion in the Aurelia as opposed to the Ryze, where he's able to actually skirmish and fight against this bot lane, as opposed to earlier where he was playing Ryze and didn't actually have as easy of a time. So Perkz is always just going to be looking to trade onto Xiaohu here. He gets ulted and he gets jumped in on. They actually force out a 1-for-1 trade now, using all of the ultimates from all these teams. They use all the ultimates from both sides, and Wadid actually shows up and consumes him. This is the power of the Tahm Kench pick, specifically for how easy it is to roam around the map. And it looks like they've actually caught out Ming right now, so they're giving a kill over. They're going to try to give the kill over to Wonder, but I think Ming actually is going to be able to execute on this, and it looks like he does. So yeah, Ming is able to execute, which actually takes a huge advantage away from G2 being able to give a kill to the Akali. But again, the power of the Tahm Kench is able to salvage the play that they make in mid lane, trading 1-for-1 again, and Uzi is still able to pressure this top lane tower now that everybody left the lane. So right now, it is looking pretty good for G2 side laners. They're able to accrue their own gold lead and advantage just through the natural laning phase and how much pressure they're able to have on these side laners. But in reality, it's basically a race between how strong is Uzi's Lucian going to be versus how strong are the side lane pushers going to be. And I think, realistically, between an Akali and an Aurelia that are both far ahead and more ahead than your own team's solo laners, the Lucian is not going to actually be able to match up to those two champions, because he's lower range, which means he's in a higher position of being in danger to these champions if there is some kind of flank that is being pulled off. I think that the gold lead that they're giving Uzi right now is a good way to try to counterbalance that, but I think that G2's side laners are just too far ahead in this case specifically, and they're just playing much more earlier game focused champions to try to kill Uzi on this Lucian. So it really will come down to the actual execution of these champions. So looking right now at the items breakpoints for this game, we have Lissandra's Proto Belt being done versus Perkz having his Tiamat and a Phage completed. So right now Perkz has the ability to shove this lane with the Tiamat harder than the Lissandra will. And here's a play. So this is another big thing about why the Kench is so strong, is that the amount of side lane pressure he's able to create with just his ultimate is super strong to collapse on like anyone that's out of position. So right there, we saw Perkz going in, trying to start a fight onto the Lissandra, and then Wadid and Hjarnan were able to just come in from the Abyssal Voyage from the top lane. This will give up the tower, but it also gives a kill over to G2 and able to make their snowball a little bit faster as it's going forward. So now they're going to try to start up the Rift Herald now that they've taken the outer tower and top lane to try to keep the pressure going. And again here, this is the Kench being able to ult in right there with both of them. Karsa does a good job to try to stop them, but Jankos is also there with Predator, which keeps him from being able to escape. And actually, because of the pressure that they have, Jankos is able to come in and actually take the Rift Herald away from RNG, but it will end up costing him his life. But this was actually really good. This was good awareness by Wonder, who TP'd in to try to stop the Rift Herald taking from Lucian and Lucian and the Rakan. This side lane pressure with the TP can match the Shen ult when coming in, and Shen was actually already there beforehand, so they had the amount of pressure we'll see in the replay to just walk up and actually stop, because I don't think that Lucian is actually strong enough to deal with a full AP Gragas at the beginning, his damage plus the Akali. So right now, looking at the item builds, Lucian is still significantly ahead of this Varus. He already has the Phage completed with Ninja Tabbies. Oh, and here comes a TP from Xiaohu. So they're looking to collapse on the Akali right now. And Uzi and Ming are actually fighting right now against Perks, but I don't think that's a good fight to take because he's definitely significantly weaker. Oh, and there we go. So G2, so Perks and Wonder are actually able to kill Uzi, who is the strongest member on G2, and with him down, they're able to put down the Rift Herald and take the mid-outer tower, and probably get the next charge off as well onto the next part. So this is actually really big, their ability to shut down Uzi and any kind of pressure he has. I think that was not a good fight for RNG to take right there. They needed to be able to collapse on Wonder without getting themselves caught out in near the mid lane right there. So they tried to do the same thing that they did in the last game of giving Uzi tower gold and bot and top, and then transitioning that to Rift Herald pressure. And now it actually kind of backfired on them because G2's champions are much more early game focused. So Uzi right here should probably just flash the wall. I don't think that he should be anywhere near that position in River because he kind of just choke pointed himself. And then they end up losing both of their flashes from their bot lane and Uzi's heal, which gives an opening for G2 to use the Rift Herald that they previously got from their pressure and take down a mid tower. So right now, G2 is in a really good spot. Their split pushers are in a position to kill Uzi, and they're strong enough to kill Uzi at this point. So now they basically just have to keep sending Hjarn in mid lane to wave clear and get stronger, and then keep the split push pressure up with Vision in top and bot side. Realistically, top side is what they should be looking at since Baron is going to be coming up in a minute and a half. So if Jankos and Tahm Kench are able to move in together and get warding pressure on top side, that will allow Perks or Wonder, whichever one is split pushing in the top side, to be able to safely move up to that inner tower and start getting chip damage on that. We've got the Gunblade for Akali, and we've got the Oblivion Orb, so she's going to be going towards the Morellonomicon. We also have the Oblivion Orb from Gragas, another Morellonomicon probably coming out from him. The Triforce is finished for Perks plus the Tiamat, so he is ready to start split pushing and be really strong in the side lane. No one should be able to 1v1 him there. The only discrepancy right now is Uzi is still ahead of Hjarnan in the itemization, but I actually don't think that that's that big of a deal because Hjarnan's ultimate is just so much more useful than any of the items that he already has, and that equalizes the gold lead that Uzi has already brought up over him. And right now, the Kench is a little bit further ahead because he already has his full support item for the 4 wards. So now RNG is just going to try to group up together and lose pressure in top side to try to take this mid-outer tower, while Perks is still pushing up in the top side. So G2 is really executing their 1-3-1 really well. They're always going to have the Tahm Kench ult to be able to react to any kind of play that RNG tries to make in one of the side lanes. So realistically, they're going to need to commit probably a lot more than 2 people to each of these side lanes if they're going to try to get a pick. And then that would still result in an even play for RNG and G2 to be together. So right now, RNG really just has to keep farming. They have to keep focusing on getting Uzi his items because that's pretty much all of their eggs are in the Uzi basket right now to try to carry this. They'll have the delay from Xin Zhao ult. They'll have the Shen ultimate to try to help him out. They'll have Lissandra to try to stall the backline or try to catch out one of the split pushers that jump on him. But it's still going to be really difficult because of the Tahm Kench and how much utility the Consume has in any kind of fight that they go for, any kind of skirmish that they go for. So because of the early leads that they got in the side lanes, it looks like G2 is going to be able to flex the pressure that they have there into the side lanes. I think it was okay for RNG to try to spend all that time down bot lane with Lissandra and the Xin Zhao, but it also gave Perks and Jankos some time to actually catch up from when they were a little bit behind. And now they're able to actually out pressure in the side lanes. So that's really good for their game plan now going into the mid game. So right now what they realistically need to do is just keep warding inside the top and bottom quadrants so that one of their split pushers can have safe passage up to this inner tower. And then when there's any kind of an opening for them, they can transition that to Baron and getting better Baron vision around the top side right now. Because at this point, the Akali will always have split push pressure on this Shen because she just clears waves faster with her Q. And the Aurelia will also have split push pressure against this Lissandra. So now they're still committing. They're sending everybody together to try to get this mid-outer tower still, because once they break that open, RNG will have a little bit more ease of movement around the map. But G2 does a really good job of defending that and keeping that from happening. They've got about 1.5k gold lead right now. So they are starting to build up in items on their side as well. Lissandra went for a Morellonomicon second item, which I actually like a lot. Oh, and here we go. Here's a collapse. But RNG actually is able to delay the pressure there with the Shen ultimate, and Xiaohu gets to dodge out, and Wadid flashes in. That's a very greedy flash, it looks like. It seems like RNG is going to turn around this fight, actually giving a kill to Uzi. That is a big overstep by G2 right there. Not because the idea was bad, but because the execution was bad. The Aurelia ultimate missed right away. And then after the Tahm Kench ult came out, Hjarnan misses his ult onto the Lissandra. And I think right there you just cut your losses and you back off and you just try to reset. But it seems like Wadid got a little bit greedy for the 3 Tahm Kench passive stacks to try to eat the Lissandra. But I think flashing forward under the tower was not a good idea, and they threw away a little bit of their side lane pressure. I think they're still pretty massively ahead in terms of how much pressure they can actually bring. But yeah, after the initial 2 ultimates missing, I think that they needed to back off. Like right here, they could probably try to pressure it. As soon as they get the Shen ult, they should probably just back out right here. Because Wadid gets too greedy to try to eat the Lissandra, and then they get punished with the Rakan ultimate and the Shen coming in to try to stop. So now they give another kill over to Uzi. It gets him a little bit further ahead now. So yeah, that was a bit of an overstep. It's not a huge deal, but they need to not make plays like that anymore if they want to be able to win this game. So just quickly pausing to look at the item builds that's going on right now. We have about, it's about a 1.4-ish K gold lead going on right now. So the Akali's on Gunblade, the Gragas is on his first jungle item plus an Oblivion Orb, and he's probably going to turn that into a Morello's, I would guess, or he's just using that as a mid-game pressure item. The Aurelia is done with her Triforce, she is done with her Tiamat, and she is looking to probably go into Titanic with the Jarm's Fist that will build into that. She also has Tabbies for the Lucian, because realistically, Tabbies is the most efficient item that these champions can build. They could go Merc Treads against the Lissandra ultimate, but realistically, if she only can ult one person, so she can only ult either Gragas, the Aurelia, or the Akali. So I think the Tabbies is actually more important, since they have a Xin Zhao, a Shen, and a Lucian, who are all very auto-attack based champions. And then the Varus is also done with his 2-item spike. The the Guinsoo's and the Bork, plus Tabbies as well, to deal with this amount of AD auto-attacking. And the Kench is finished with his support item plus Merc Treads. That's just to make sure he doesn't get caught out too much, seeing as he's the one that needs to be saving his front line, so that's okay. Comparatively, the Shen went the Titanic Hydra, he went the Adaptive Helm and Merc Tread, so he's really maximizing out on his 1v1 laning against the Akali, which is good because he can always respond in team fights with his ultimate, so he doesn't have to worry too much about that yet, seeing as he's going to have to stop her from split pushing. The Xin Zhao is working. He's almost done with his Sterix, so he and Gragas are pretty close in terms of gold. I think it's still a little bit more Xin Zhao favorite on this one. The Lissandra is much more utility focused, so her being down on items is not actually that big of a deal. You got the Proto Belt, and you have Morellos to stop the healing of Akali, Aurelia, Varus, and Gragas, so I think that's a really good, efficient item to build. It gives him a little bit more health as well, but I think that probably rushing the Morellos delays the usefulness of Lissandra in the fights that they're trying to take, at least in these early skirmishes, because he has no stopwatch right now and no Zonias. So that means that he only has his ultimate to stall out any kind of fight, and that's not a huge amount of time for champions like Aurelia and Akali that are going to be jumping on him, plus the Varus that will output a lot of damage. Uzi is still really strong. He looks like he's going for the more of like, I need to do full damage kind of mindset as opposed to building any kind of defensive items. So that would include the Bork Black Cleaver, and it looks like he's going to be going for either Rapid Fire or Phantom Dancer. I would probably say Phantom Dancer in this case just because of how much actual damage is being put on G2's side with the Akali and the Aurelia. I think that just works better. It gives up a little bit of his range advantage he can have in team fights, but I think it overall makes him a little bit safer. And then Rakan is on his first item plus a non-upgraded support item to the full 4 wards. So right now it seems that G2 is still ahead. Looks like they're probably gonna have to spend their gold to finish out some of the items they have over here, but they do have a slight gold lead. It looks like Uzi is the only one that still has an item advantage on Hjarnan. But other than that, it seems everyone else is pretty even or pretty strong at the points that they are right now. So it comes down to more of just the champions themselves and what the utility they offer. And I think right now G2 is just, as long as they don't blunder another fight like they do in top lane, I think they pretty much can guaranteed win this game through their 1-3-1 and through the pressure they have in their side lanes. Because these champions will get outscaled by the amount of side lane pressure that G2 can create with this pick. So right now it looks like Perks is basing to finish. He finishes Sterix, so he doesn't actually go Titanic. I think the Titanic is probably just a better split push item. However, it seems that there is a lot of skirmishing that they do after they push in the side lanes, so the Sterix does make sense in terms of giving him more frontline beefiness to be able to jump in onto the back line of RNG. So right now, I think what RNG and G2 need to be focusing on is the Infernal Drake. Realistically, I don't think anyone can take Baron just yet. It's only 25 minutes. If G2 is able to take out all the vision of RNG around Baron, they might be able to sneak it with the Varus. But realistically, it doesn't look like that's actually going to happen. Akali finishes her Zonias now as well, so that makes her really strong and really good at stalling out the backline. So G2 is in a good position right now for, even if they group up 5v5, they have good chances to find some picks and find some good team fighting, even though their comp is focused primarily around the 1-3-1. So Uzi does finish his Phantom Dancer. Lissandra is starting to build her Zonias right now. So that's going to be good for her once she completes that. I think G2 should be looking to take fights anywhere around. Oh, and Wonder gets ulted and caught out. That's actually another really big pick for RNG. That takes out another one of their side laners, and they're probably going to be able to get this outer tower, and they do. So that's actually that's another big blunder right there by G2, just being caught out of position, because there is a lot of CC and a lot of pick potential on RNG's side, so if they do get caught out. So Perks looks like he's going to have to fight his way out of this one, and he is. The Sterix pops. He's able to stun Uzi, And Uzi actually gets hit by Hjarnen's ultimate right here. That's actually pretty big. And I don't know why Uzi would jump the wall there and face check, but now G2 has the ability to actually come back and start fighting again right here. So they actually go 1-for-1, and they have Wonder's TP that's behind them. So now they're going to be now they're forcing RNG into a choke and have to fight. Perks gets out and kills the Lissandra there, but they're able to trade back. This is just a huge team fight that G2 has been waiting to try to fight and been trying to take the advantage onto Baron with this whole time. And it's a lot of it stems from Uzi just kind of straight face checking into the bush over the wall and dying, because with Uzi dead, their whole lead is essentially gone. Like, RNG's gold is essentially gone, because even though the Xin Zhao and the Lissandra all have decent damage with the items that they've built, they don't actually have the like straight damage that Uzi can just put out, and Hjarnen is able to actually put out more damage on the backside anyway. So it's a good idea. It's a good initial plan by Perks to try to get out of there, and they're getting collapsed on right now. But this flash right here by the Xin Zhao, and then Uzi just dashing over the wall and then flashing initially afterwards, that was probably just a mental error right there. Hjarnen also has to flash just from the threat of the Lissandra. The Tom Kench pick working out really well, just being able to save people left and right. And now that Wonder is TPing behind, they're forcing RNG into a really bad team fight that they can actually win right here. So Perks being able to take down Lissandra even though he goes down is really good, because it just shows how far ahead he was on this fight. And Wonder basically being untouched makes it so that they can win that team fight super easily. Because even if one of the split pushers goes down, the other one is still right there, just as strong. And even in that fight, you can see how much more damage and how much pressure the Varus is able to put out with like 5k damage in that fight total. So now RNG is trying to attack the side lane with Baron, but this is just a case of like when you commit too much to a side lane to try to stop a split pusher, the pressure plus Baron will always be able to take these outer tower or these inner towers for G2. So with this comp, with this 1-3-1 comp that G2 has right now, taking these towers and splitting RNG across the map is super easy for them to do, just because if they commit too much and the split pusher gets out, they lose a tower or they lose an inhib off of it. So now they're basically just going to be trying to split up. They're going to send a Kali to mid lane to try to push in that tower to get pressure on the mid inhib tower. And even the top tower is down below 3/4 HP already. So this is really good pressure that G2 is putting onto the map right now. They're playing their 1-3-1 comp really well. Infernal is up in 15 seconds. So I think right now they can just push mid lane up and push top lane up and then just fall back to that and take it for free and give themselves even more late game scaling than they already have right now. But it looks like they are going to stay top lane right now and try to get, I guess they're going to try to force down that inhib tower with Baron while they still have it, because they only have 40-ish seconds left of Baron right now. And they've got Wonder, so they don't actually have to fight anything. They can just kind of kite backwards and fall back, because they're getting the side lane pressure everywhere right now. Bot lane is pushing against them, so they probably need to send somebody to go back and reset that eventually. But so far, it still looks like G2 is still out pressuring RNG. Jankos is going to pop the Predator to get some more space for Hjarnen. Oh, and the ultimate right there. Okay, that's pretty big. So that's the utility of the Varus right there being really useful. Being able to ult the Rakan and keep him from being able to do anything. So it looks like Perks and Wonder are trying to 2v2 right here onto RNG's mid and jungle. Oh wow, and that's a lot of damage. So Wonder does a lot of damage to be able to almost straight execute these guys on RNG. And they basically win the 2v2 fight right there. They're able to break mid tower and they're able to push the inhib. Plus, using the Tom Kench ult means that they can't go to Infernal. So they actually might end up giving away Infernal due to, even though they're up like 9k gold right now, they've used all of their ults. They don't really have that much pressure. They only have their summoners, which they don't want to burn right now. But it looks like they're actually going to give up an RNG Infernal Dragon. So I don't know about. I guess they do get both of the inhibs on top and mid, but I feel like they didn't actually have to give away this Infernal Dragon as much, even though in reality it doesn't actually matter that much in the grand scheme of things, because now they can just send their split pushers to mid and top and keep the waves pushed in and then pressure together. So this Yarn ult was really good for just breaking open, because now it leads to a Yankos cask that basically just insta-kills him. So that's a huge amount of pressure off the defense of RNG, because they lose the Rakan engage. So Perks is able to stall out here. He's able to stun Karsa mid Zonias, which is really smart. And he's able to escape. Wonder is able to go in, double stun here, and do a lot of damage and just keep stalling out the fight. Now that they've taken the inhib top lane, they are able to send their bot lane with the Tom Kench down there into mid lane to fight and turn around the fight right there. They're able to break the mid tower and get the mid inhib. So it's a smart usage of the Tom Kench ult after they already gained an advantage in top side. So now realistically, you send your split pushers to mid and top, and then you want to siege bot lane with the other three members of your team and just be ready to move both of those champions down to collapse on them once they get to the inhib tower. So right now, Uzi is on 4 items. He's gotten absolutely no defensive items because he needs to be able to do damage. And realistically, if he gets killed right away, a defensive item probably won't save, or if he's engaged on right away, a defensive item probably won't save him. It's his best chance of outputting damage onto these split pushers. But he gets flash ulted. He has to heal. They burn the Shen ult, and they're able to kill Rakan right away. And Wonder is able to just straight up delete him. This Akali pick was super good for just being able to straight dive onto a Lucian. Perks is able to take him out. And that's how this second game will end. G2 will win this game. And it's very clear that this is the style of game that they want to be playing against RNG. The amount of early game pressure that they lost because they committed so many resources down to Uzi actually ended up being one of the reasons that G2 was able to win this game, in my opinion. It was really good for RNG, and it was definitely part of the playbook to get Uzi ahead on this Lucian with all of the pressure they could get in bot side. Like, they actually took the bot tower, I think, faster this game than they did the last game, and they were able to try to get the top lane tower quicker as well. It was just the Rift Herald fight was not as clean because they were not as ahead across the map as they were in the first game. So only the bot lane was able to pressure the Rift Herald, and then once G2 came in, they were able to push them off and actually take the Herald, even though they lost the fight afterwards. And then it was just the constant split push pressure that Wonder and Perks had on these two champions that allowed G2 to be able to make all these plays. And it's very clear that G2 is comfortable with the Tom Kench as part of this 1-3-1 comp to collapse on any potential side lane problems that they have. So I think that G2 played this game really well. I think RNG probably needs to either draft more of a front line for Uzi in these fighting comps, or they just need to put Uzi on some kind of like later game insurance, like a Sivir or something, in order to actually make sure they can continue to team fight. So I think that RNG will probably take blue side for this next game, and then they're going to go back to those 3 original bands of Heimer, Akali, and Tom Kench, and then force G2 to actually innovate a little bit with their 1-3-1 comp and figure out how they're going to actually execute it. So that's the end of game 2.